is there any reasoning to take the financial hit now and move on to a new coach to reset the program brand, looking at all angles, realignment, Canes upswing, Gators to make moves this year? I fear the timing of this year is bad. Timing's bad. I don't think the Gators are going to make a move this year. It is not necessarily a cost-effective move for them right now. It would be a lot, and I would tell you that I think he saved his job because I think there's a good chance he's going to go 6-6. They're going to beat us, and he's going to ride the wave of momentum for this young quarterback. Back to the question at hand. This is the cost analysis that people have to do all the time. Usually it's not a year after going undefeated and extending your coach and giving him a hefty raise along with his staff. This is the problem, because if that had not happened, I think most certainly they would just move on. They would say, you know what? I can't fathom how this happened. I hate that it happened. We like Mike. Wish this didn't happen, but it did, and we got to go. We're starting over. You can't go and do that here. Not at a place like Florida State. This is unacceptable. We're starting over. But I think many factors are weighing into this now, including a strange and changing time in college athletics, college football in particular. You've seen a sea change. And then I think the other thing is they've extended themselves so far now. They've got so many projects and things that they're spending. They're spending money on a lawsuit, on the stadium. They're spending money on a football-only facility. They just gave raises across the board. I think it's just easier to fire the assistant coaches. It's a drop in the bucket. It won't be nothing, but it's affordable. And have him make these changes and see if you can't get this turned around, because he's proven to be, however briefly, a very good coach. There was a stretch of the last 2 years that certainly counts towards something. I think they'll view that as, in a weird way, a get-out-of-jail-free card for this year. Not that there isn't a real price to pay, and not that there isn't very real frustration, and not that there aren't some people, probably very powerful people, who would like to reset it, start over. But I don't believe that'll happen. I don't.
I still think he earned the right to try and make it right. I do. But it would be tempting. It would be tempting.
Well, you would ask yourself this. All right. I think because he won 19 straight, returned us to atop the conference, got screwed by the snub, did win, as I said, every game in the regular season last year and the conference championship, that he showed he's proven he can coach. He's proven that he can flip a culture, get a program turned around. There's evidence of that. So you can't tell me he can't do it. But that said, can the man who engineered this colossal failure be the one to fix it? Could the man who is responsible for this sort of dire strait that we find ourselves in now be the guy that you want to fix it? Again, money doesn't count. And then the second question, perhaps this would be first, and the second would be that. The first would be, who can you bring in? If you're going to move on from Mike, who are you bringing in? Who is available for you to bring in? Because you can't swing and miss. You're going to have to bring in somebody that is a home run.
Well, and you have to double down. I don't mean in terms of it to raise an extension, but you have to double down so that there is enough stability communicated out there. Whispers into the winds of the coaching community that viable candidates for coordinator or position coaches would come here.
Well, you're already going to have to do that.
Yes, but I'm saying that it would have to be believable, unless you've got a bloodthirsty, defensive coordinator that thinks, well, maybe I get elevated. And you have to consider all these machinations. But I do feel like the fact that we know for a fact that Mike has looked dead into the eyes of the fire and found a way out of it. It does give me confidence that it can happen. It doesn't give me confidence that it will happen. I'm not guaranteeing that, but he's faced it.
I think the hard part, I agree. I see this happen a lot now, and it's mounting the kinds of, he's a punching bag right now. And understandably, look, they're terrible. I do like that he'll just tell you that anytime they ask him. I mean, we've earned where we're at. We are what we are. He's not running from that. I'm glad. I'm not getting this we're raising good people nonsense out of my coach. He's not talking about what great students they are. He's not doing any of that stuff that we've seen coaches under the fire, under the gun do in the past. I mean, we've seen that in places all around college football where it's suddenly because, well, you guys care about winning? We're raising fine young men that are going to contribute to society. All right, man. Time's up, dude. Great. I get it. But so he's not in denial. And he has accomplished something, both in his prior stint and this. So I'm with you. He's not a lost cause in that sense. I do question aloud whether or not he can come back from this. But I will tell you, Tom, and I was going through it. Did I jot it down? I'm sure I did. You have to forgive me. Oh, yeah. I was jotted down earlier today.
Good for you for making all those notes on a Miami week at 1-6. That's professionalism right there.
There's a lot of them, buddy. I got a ton of them right here. So we're 1-6. We're, last year we were undefeated. I'm just going to give you regular season records.
We were 7-0 last year. Yeah.
Okay, so last year we were undefeated. We're currently 1-6. We qualify without question as the most shocking failure in college football this year. We're number one. There are a lot of candidates. We're number one when it comes to the greatest disappointments in college football this season. We're number one. Now, Oklahoma State won 9 games last year. They were 9-3 in the conference, or 7-2 in the conference, 9-3 in the regular season last year. They're currently 3-4. Showed a pulse last week. They're well on their way to losing 7 games, is what it looks like to me. Southern Cal is currently 3-4. They've invested more money in their overall roster than Florida State has by quite a bit, I might add, and had expectations through the roof upon hiring Lincoln Riley, obviously. Last year, they were 8-4 in their 12-game schedule. Not a great year for that investment, but a far cry from the 3-4 they are currently. Sub 500, probably not on the way to a bowl anytime soon. Michigan won the national championship or the invitational or whatever you want to call it last year. They are 4-3 with more losses coming. They do not have an offense to speak of. They do not have a quarterback. That might very well end up being a 6-6 Michigan team fresh off a national championship victory with, by the way, a top 10 defense from a personnel standpoint in the country. Kansas went 9-3 in the regular season last year. I know Kansas is not comparable to Florida State, but Lance Leipold is considered to be one of the best coaches in college football. Turned Kansas into a 9-3 program a year ago in the regular season. They are 2-5. They are 2-5 currently, well on their way to a 4-8 season. That's, they're terrible. There are more examples. Some are kind of middling right now and may end up having horrible seasons if they continue on their path that they're currently on, which is that, let's say they've lost 2 in a row and that puts them at 4-3. So I didn't put them on this list, but it looks like they're going to be losing about 3 or 4 more games. And all of a sudden they're going to finish 5-7 after winning 9 games last year or 10 games last year. The things that I'm seeing now in college football with the changes that we've seen, and I keep harping on this, is that the opportunity for teams to go from the penthouse to the outhouse is at an all-time high. We may end up being the shining example of that this year in a way that exceeds all of the others.
We're in the hole in the dirt in the outhouse.
Yeah. We may be the greatest of the outliers, let's say, but I'm not so sure it's an outlier anymore. I'm beginning to believe that the kinds of extremes that I'm pointing out here and that I've pointed out before and have begun to discuss are going to happen more and more. And that the college football fan in general is going to have to get used to the kind of extremes that is normally reserved for the NFL. That, happens after you lose your starting quarterback in the NFL. Nobody has a backup anymore. Nobody can afford a backup in the NFL. Every backup seems to be a bum unless his name is Joe Flacco. And there you are. You're just kind of stuck like, well, they're going to lose 10 games because they just lost their starting quarterback. But what I think is happening in college football is these weird outlier type things that we're witnessing this year are going to be kind of normal.